Radio Al-Ansaar podcasts.
Jazakallah Hafiz Wadi. Jazakallah Sheikh for the beautiful recitation of the Durood. Brothers and sisters here at David Exhibition and listening on Radio Al-Ansaar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and Jummah Barak. It is indeed a momentous occasion for us. It's the last day of Rabi al-Awwal, a really blessed month if we really understand the value of this month. It's a beautiful recitation of Durood on a beautiful day of Jummah. But the happenings in the Muslim world are not consistent with the joy we expect the Holy Prophet ﷺ to enjoy from the Muslim Ummah. If the Prophet ﷺ was in our midst, truly he will be heartbroken to see what's going on, not only among the Ummah, but among all human beings in this world. Syria is a critical point, a crisis beyond proportions. We see Muslims tearing each other apart in Syria. What is even worse is those outside Syria tearing each other even further apart because of their own understanding or misunderstanding of what's going on inside Syria, because of political, religious, and agendas external to Islam, not based on Quran and Sunnah. I mean, the evaluation is not based on Quran and Sunnah. Everybody is an expert. Everybody has his own view. Everybody quotes you this leader and that leader, quotes you this media and that media, and everybody seems to know it all. And yet if you ask any of those people, none of them have been inside Syria. The best place, the best way to get information, correct information, is not necessarily from the media. We know that media is manipulated. I took the South African team, media team, into South Lebanon in 2006 when the war broke out. These were journalists, non-Muslims, watching the war on the media from inside Lebanon and watching the war itself. And after half an hour they said, we swear that the media, the international media, is talking about another war, not the war that we are in at the moment. That is how media can manipulate depending on which side of the story they belong to. I've been in Bosnia, in Syria, in Somalia, all these places, and Lebanon, and Gaza. All war situations. And if you analyze the media on the outside, and you see what's going on the inside, it's exactly what the South African media said. It's two different wars. The Syria situation has confused the whole Muslim world. Me too. I was confused until in October 2012. A Palestinian came from Turkey to fetch me in South Africa. He said, I'm the bureau chief of Al Jazeera. I've been a bureau chief for 10 years in Turkey. I was across the road from Syria, and me as the bureau chief of Al Jazeera didn't know what was going on inside Syria. I decided to go inside and take a look. And what I saw broke my heart. Because I'm from Palestine and I know what hardship and difficulty is all about, but this broke my heart. I came to South Africa and people said, I must meet you. The following week, I was in Syria, going to different areas, trying to find people I could connect with, trying to see what could be done. Azhar Wadi is here. He was there in Syria also. And he knows what I saw and he knows what he saw. And going to different areas, I couldn't find one medical person. Our specialty is medical response. And eventually we found a guy called Dr. Ahmed Gandour. And in that process, the point I made from the beginning is, you don't get your information from the media. You get the information from the people on the ground who love it, who experience it, who know what hardship and difficulty is all about. They know who the enemies are. They know what's happening to them. We didn't know. And then we met this lady, a school teacher, after I met Dr. Ahmed Gandour. She spoke fluent English. She said, all over the world they call us terrorists. They tell us they're bombing terrorists. They say we have got some political agenda. See this child, see this woman, see this man. Can you see any terrorism in them? Do they have a gun? Can they fight back? Can they shoot? Are they attacking anybody? Why were we being bombed and attacked? She said, I will tell you the story. In March 2011, in a place called Dara, the kids walked in the street and said, we want a change of system. They didn't ask for regime change. They didn't say change the government. All they asked for is a better system. They wrote on the school board, and then these children were taken away by Assad's army, by secret police, and burnt in the jails, cut, tortured, and harmed. And there are people inside South Africa who say Assad is right. People who don't even know what's going on, blindly following a political agenda. Assad is wrong. There is no question about it. But don't judge by me. I'm a human being, fallible. I may have my own agenda. I may be pro-Saudi. I may be pro-American. I may be pro-Israeli. I may be pro-Iranian. Judge me by what the Quran says. Judge everybody by what the Quran says. The Prophet ﷺ taught, in warfare, you don't bomb hospitals. You don't bomb masjids. You don't bomb marketplaces. You don't bomb ambulances. You don't bomb doctors and nurses. You don't bomb teachers. You don't bomb water tanks. You don't bomb crops. You don't bomb innocent civilians. You don't tie your enemy. You don't torture your enemy. You share your food with your enemy. You don't have a blockade. You don't cut people off. Is any of this practiced inside Syria? The answer is no. They do everything opposite to what the Holy Prophet ﷺ has taught us. Make your analysis on the basis of that. This same teacher carries on the story. She says, you see this lady here? She's a widow. Her husband was taken away from her and shot point blank. She lost 2 of her sons. Her children were tortured. This lady lost this child. This one lost this father. This one lost his brother. So many of them in prison. We don't know where they are. They've been tortured by Assad's army. Point number 1, the information came from people on the ground. One person can make a story. So don't listen to one person. Speak to 5, to 10, to 15, to 20 from every area. We can speak to 13,000 people a month from all over Syria. Why? Because we run 2 of the biggest hospitals in the whole of North Syria. And who comes to those hospitals? Men, women and children from Latakia, Aleppo, Damascus, Homs, Mardol Noman, Yaqubia, Idlib, and so many other places. Can 13,000 people manufacture the wrong story every single month? Is that possible? They are the real news media. So number 1, get the information from the source. We have sourced 13,000 a month, every month. And the numbers are increasing, and it's coming from all over Syria. It's not one city only. Number 2, they told you what happened. Were they terrorists? It was an uprising very similar to the uprising in South Africa. The people wanted a change. They wanted to get out of the oppression. Is it haram to fight against oppression? Is it haram to fight against injustice? Assad's father, here's a Syrian, ask him, wiped out 40,000 Sunni Muslims in the 80s. And we thought there's a better man coming in his place. Unfortunately, he is responsible alone for the death of more than 300,000 innocent civilians already. He is responsible for the migration and the displacement of 14 million people inside and outside Syria. Anybody think this man can be a Muslim? Assad is not a Muslim. He is an Alawite. An Alawite is out of the fold of Islam. Ask the Iranians. Their own Shia alim say, that an Alawite is out of the fold of Islam. But that brings another interesting issue. The lady carries on. She says, you know who shoots us the most all over Syria? It's the Iranians and Hezbollah. I'm a little shocked now. First of all, I didn't understand what was going on in Syria. I didn't find anybody who speaks English. I find a school teacher who gives me the whole background, and 13,000 people a month can now verify it. She tells me a new thing. We knew Saudi Arabia sold the Muslim world. The Gulf War tells you clearly they sold the Muslim world. And about Saudi Arabia, it's not an issue. We all know that for the last 30 or 40 years. So that was not the issue. If they told us Saudi Arabia sold us out, we'll say, not a big deal. We know that. But what was interesting, for them to tell us that Iran and Hezbollah were involved in killing women and children, standing on the heights of a minaret, and from snipers shooting women and children. So I said, what did you do? They said, our people are very sensitive about the masjid. But eventually, the imams and the teachers said, we have no choice, bring the minaret down. So they bombed the minaret to drop the sniper from the minaret to end the shooting of women and children. When the Islamic Revolution came, what did they say in Iran? We are there to unite the whole Muslim world. There is no Sunni and there is no Shia. We will fight oppression and injustice anywhere and everywhere we will go. Hezbollah will be the great army against Israel. They were bluffing us. They were killing our women and children all over Syria. I'm not saying this. I'm saying from people, because I didn't see them do that. But I saw the results of what they did. The patient, you can't see electricity. Can anybody see electricity? But you can see the light. You can see the globe goes on. You can't feel the electricity, but you can see the effects of electricity. In the same way, you don't see them shooting. It's in different parts of the country. But you see the wounds. You see the sadness. You see the stories. And you see every kind of disaster taking place. And these are the people that come to the hospital. Now, a true Muslim doesn't do things like that. A true Muslim doesn't target a woman and a child. Yes, in war, accidental damage can happen. There is no perfect war when you only shoot a soldier. You saw any perfect war like that? Even in the time of Islam, it's not possible to only shoot one soldier directly. Yes, the weapons we have now are not what they had in those times. Maybe with one rifle or one sword, you hit only one person. But today there's missiles, buster bunkers, chemical weapons, and every type of weapon. So there is a chance that civilians can die. But that's the difference between dying by accident or being deliberately targeted. What happened in Aleppo? What happened all over Syria? Assad and his Alawites, together with Iran, together with Hezbollah, and they brought in a new friend called Russia. All they did was target civilian areas. You know what I said in the beginning? They bombed hospitals, food markets, civilian places, masjids, and even now last week, when they were coming out of Aleppo, do you know what they did? There were 5 wounded civilians in an ambulance. These troops of Syria and Hezbollah and Iran pulled them out of the ambulance, wounded people, and shot them in the streets. Is this Islam? You can identify with this? Do you have a political agenda? Can any Muslim identify with this in the name of the Prophet of Islam? If you do, there is something very seriously wrong with you and your understanding of Islam. And as the women and children were leaving, what happened? They had suffered for so many years, trapped inside. And even when they're leaving, what did the militia do? They stopped them and they took away their last jewelry, their last cash, and the last possessions you have. How much more do you want to humiliate somebody? You know what some of the patients told us at the hospital? They said women kill themselves because they did not want to be raped. If you are truly Islamic, if you are truly Hezbollah, truly Islamic, and truly Muslim in Assad's army, do you rape women? Do you drag people away from their husbands, from their wives, and shoot them in the street? Are you responsible for children walking in the street looking for their parents because you kill them? And people saw how children were kissing their grandparents on the forehead and walking around aimlessly. We have all those witnesses from all over Syria to tell you this kind of stories. This is not some kind of make-up. I don't have to make up a story. I got nothing to gain. Let's carry on. Time is almost up. The same lady tells me something more interesting. She says, you know, it's very hard to say this, but Assad is worse than Israel. So I asked her, what do you mean? She said, Israel has compassion. Assad has no compassion. Here is a Muslim lady, and the whole Muslim world knows what Israel does inside Gaza. I've been a witness there many times. They almost bombed my building that we built, the childcare center, the bomb masjid, by 5 meters. We've seen how the children have been trapped in the rubble. Again, we've seen the effects inside Syria of what, inside Gaza of what Israel has done. You would think in the Muslim world, there's nobody worse. Even more amazing is an Arab to tell you that Assad is worse than Israel. Israel has compassion. An Arab is saying that. And Assad has no compassion. Can you imagine what kind of impact he must have made on the people of Syria for somebody to say that? If that's the part you need to understand, brothers and sisters, this is not my story. This is what I've seen inside. Read between the lines. If you're too clever, some of you are too clever, analyzing everyone, ask the people on the ground. You don't represent them. They represent themselves. They represent their hurt. They've lost 23 members of a family, 15 members of a family, 5 children. They come to hospital, 4 children are bombed in the hospital, in a bomb and dead. The mother's alive for 1 child. How do you console a person like that and then you tell him afterwards you are wrong? You got some agenda for the Americans. You got some agenda for the Saudis. You got some agenda for the Israelis. There is no permission for the killing of women and children anywhere in the Islamic law. It's unconditional. You're calling these women terrorists? They were farmers. They don't even know how to use a gun. Do you know how many patients we treated? They shot themselves. They have no idea how to use a gun. I had a father who shot his own child in the heart, 5 years old, because he doesn't know how to use a gun. And when the mother cried in the hospital, that I was a witness to. And my whole team of 60 people were a witness to that. And the South African media were also a witness to that. How this father shot his own child and what happened, how the hospital broke down and sobbed. But that is 1 child out of 15 million people who are going through difficulty every single day. Brothers and sisters, you've given a lot of money just to tell you how your money has been spent and how it's been continued to spend. Right now, the same Al Jazeera journalist, his name is Fikri Shaban, Azarwani met him too. He resigned from Al Jazeera to work full time for me because his heart could not take the suffering inside Syria, and he decided to do humanitarian work because he's a Palestinian. He called me now. He said, I'm just trying to hold myself together. I've been to the new camps. It's full of mud. It's raining inside Syria everywhere. The people are living with the rats. There's no medicine to poison the rats. They have no food, no mattresses, and they got summer tents. The rain is coming through. We said we're going to arrange new tents for them, blankets, mattresses, foods, and medical clinics. The final point. In the last 4 years, we've put up 2 of the biggest hospitals in the whole of North Syria. They see 13,000 patients a month, and it's increasing. All types of patients. We even have a dialysis unit for 5 patients. The beauty of all this is almost every day there's 4 or 5 children, babies being born in the hospital. We have a primary health care clinic, a feeding center. We're busy building a warehouse. We have outdoor clinics where the doctors go out to all over doing primary health care. And they even go, we send trauma teams. When there's bombing in all the other areas, trauma teams go into Aleppo. They go into Latakia, they go into homes. They risk their lives to go and help the other doctors in the other hospitals. Our hospital has been they've attempted many times. Assad has attempted many times to bomb the hospital. When we got there in April 2013, 4 missiles hit the mountain above the hospital. We were in the hospital. Bombs fell behind the hospital, around the hospital, in the restaurant where the doctors were eating, in the houses where we were sleeping. In May last year, when the Nepal earthquake took place, he was successful in blowing the doors and the windows out of the hospital. But we fixed it up and the hospital continued. Every time we took the equipment out and put in the house. I took the patients out and put in the house. Eventually this year, the Syrian medical team said, we have 200 medical team with support staff running those 2 hospitals and a primary health care inside Syria. Eventually they said, enough is enough. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. We are going to stay in these hospitals, in this primary care center, with the equipment and the patients. And when the bombs fall on this hospital, we will die with the patients in this hospital. We're not going anywhere. They can take themselves, they can get the best jobs in Europe, in America, in any part of the world, because they're the most skilled trauma doctors in war zone. They refuse to go. They're getting no money. It's a small stipend just to survive their families. So we can't pass judgment on them. And you know, a lot of people say, the Syrians are suffering because they're bad people. When you became God? Huh? When you became or did Almighty's job? Nobody can judge anybody. Is it a test or is it a punishment? When we have difficulty, are we being punished or are we being tested? How do we know? Judgment is only the responsibility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our responsibility is what the Prophet ﷺ taught. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He came as rahmatan lil alameen. Mercy unto all creation. Not to the Muslim only. Unto all creation. And he said, khairun nas may yanfa'un nas. Best among people are those who benefit mankind. Brothers and sisters, they are suffering in Syria like I can't explain to you. My words can't tell you. The pictures can't tell you. The stories can't tell you. If you see it with your own eyes, you will understand it like how I saw it with my own eyes. Only then could I understand what was going on in Syria. And that's why for the last 4 years, we've driven all the efforts to help. We've spent 150 million rand in Syria already in the last 4 years. In the last 5 days, we've put in $600,000 of supplies in the last 5 days after the fall of Aleppo. We've put in medicines that have come from Relief International, Medicine International, from the Islamic Medical Association of North America, doctors worldwide, our own money, your money. We've put up more camps. We're running 2 of our own camps. We're looking at putting up several more camps. Money just goes down the hole because the needs are so great. But whatever you spend in the path of Allah, He takes notice. But where you really benefit is when that orphan child, when that widow lady, when the elderly man picks up their hands and say, oh Allah, thank you for these people that you sent. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.